dynamic wild animals in their semi-natural setting. Sure, anyone can go to a zoo, but safari parks have a different dynamic, where its customers can drive their own vehicle or ride in one provided to casually observe the different freely roaming animals. Typically, these adventures are as mundane as a, pardon the pun, walk in the park. But sometimes when you're dealing with wild animals, you should expect the unexpected and always keep your doors locked. Like one family found out on a recent trip to a safari park in South Africa, a country that is home to a countless number of these types of adventures. While slowly proceeding through a group of lions, one of them calmly opens the rear door, a situation that could have quickly turned for the worse. There are other examples of people tempting fate by doing things like keeping their windows down on the drive, which, by the way, is completely against the rules. So, while these parks can be informative and beautiful, be careful and take all of the necessary precautions. The Island of Dolls. Is it just me, or are those toy plastic baby dolls super creepy? Up next, we'll travel down to central Mexico to a place that has one of the most mysterious stories in all of the world, where we visit the Island of Dolls. The island can be found just south of Mexico City and has become a must-see for tourists visiting the nearby ancient Aztec canals. The story goes that a man named Don Julian abruptly left his wife and secluded himself on the island in the mid-20th century. There is where he claims to have discovered a poor little girl who had drowned in a lake. Soon after that, a doll supposedly came floating down one of the canals, sparking very dramatic behavior to Mr. Julio. He took the doll out of the water, and in an effort to pay tribute to the poor girl who had just drowned, he hung it from a tree as some sort of ritual sacrifice. From that day forward, he recovered dolls from everywhere, the trash, the canals, or even other various places, dangling each one of them from one of the trees on the island. But the story gets even weirder from there. After 50 years of collecting these strange, misshaped dolls, Don Julio passed away, and in 2011, it's reported he was found drowned in the exact location that he claimed to have discovered that poor little girl. After that, tourists who visited the island all started bringing their own gifts, dolls that were then strung up and hung from various places on the island. Snake Island. Now, on to a place that isn't necessarily a tourist attraction because, well, believe it or not, humans aren't even allowed to go here. It's called Snake Island, and it can be found less than 30 miles off the coast of Brazil. If the name doesn't tell you what the island is all about, then maybe this statistic will. According to reports, there's at least one deadly snake per square foot on this island. The primary snake here is the lancehead, which is a pit viper, one of the deadliest slithering snakes in the world. If a lancehead bites you and you don't get medical attention, your life could expire within the hour. Village of Dolls. A few minutes ago, we talked about the Island of Dolls, but here we'll discuss the Village of Dolls, which can be found over in Japan. In the city of Nagoro, an area smacked with a diminishing population as its residents abandon it in search of better employment, one local returned home and did something pretty remarkable. In an effort to replace everyone who had fled, in an effort to reconcile her own boredom, she designed and created life-sized dolls and then placed them all over the small town. Over 350 of these dolls were made, and each one was meticulously placed in an area that an actual human would supposedly be. From schools to local shops, and even just various outdoor places. For over a decade, these creations sprouted up everywhere. Pretty creepy though, right? Death Road. Now, for the most bluntly terrifying name of any on today's countdown, we've got Death Road, which can be found in Bolivia. The technical name of this unfortunate road is Yungay, but after being known for its insanely high death rate, the nickname it developed seemed to carry a little bit more weight. The road was crafted all the way back in the 1930s by Paraguayan prisoners in the middle of the Chaco War, and it's surrounded by mountainous terrain and stretches for more than 40 miles. The areas of single-lane road, steep cliffs, and limited visibility because of fog and rainy weather all contributed to the staggering stats, including the one that suggests anywhere from 200 to 300 people died traveling this road each year. The most tragic of all cases happened in 1983 when a bus carrying over 100 passengers, yes, 100, veered off the side of the cliff, toppling over, killing everyone on board. It's worth noting that the roads here have all been modernized over the last couple of decades, making the area much safer to travel on. Jacob's Well. For those ultimate thrill seekers out there, this next topic is strictly for you. In Central Texas, near a town called Wimberley, there's a lake that attracts hundreds of people each year. Cypress Creek in Texas Hill Country houses a spring that gives people access to quite a spectacular underwater cave system. Jacob's Well is the particular opening that leads to these underground tunnels, and thrill seekers will dive straight into it with hopes of reaching the bottom, which is quite a long way. The first floor of this well is about 30 feet underwater, but then the tunnel angles and continues in a downward direction for another 100 feet. Since the year 2000, when divers stopped being as much daredevils and simply explorers and began swimming into the well's depths with proper scuba equipment, the tunnels were finally able to be mapped. Only the trained should attempt to navigate these submarine tunnels, as people have literally died trying to see everything that Jacob's Well has to offer. Devil's Pool. Let's stick with the theme of water for just a little bit, as up next we've got the Devil's Pool, which sits near an area dubbed by Travel and Leisure as being strictly for adrenaline junkies. Here booms the Victoria Falls, which can be found in southern Africa near the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe. The falls themselves are one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, and reports say that over 250,000 gallons of water are poured over the cliff's edge every single second. At the top of the falls, there's a place just calm and shallow enough that its visitors can literally nestle right up to the edge of the cliff and look down below at the death-defying view. This is the Devil's Pool, and as you can imagine, this is quite the dangerous attraction. But if you want to come here, you have to do your due diligence, as the area is only open for a couple of months a year. The dry season allows for the water levels to drop low enough to maintain visitors. Any other time of the year, stepping foot inside of the Devil's Pool or anywhere near the top of these falls is basically a death wish. Tornado Territory. From a natural wonder to a recurring natural disaster, Oklahoma in the United States has pockets that are primarily known simply as tornado territory. While most of us are likely anxious to run away from these natural disasters, there are some folks who choose to chase the storms. Extreme Tornado Tours is one group that will allow its customers to locate and intercept the violent whirling winds. Now, is it just me, or is paying thousands of dollars to speed towards a windstorm that could literally lift a house up into the air one of the craziest things that you've ever heard? I mean, we all know what happened in The Wizard of Oz, right? Some folks pay thousands of dollars to feel this uncomfortable? Do you think that's something that you'd ever be interested in? Loam's Akkodisiwa. Here in America, when you're sick, you may run down to your local drugstore in order to pick up whatever satisfies your symptoms. If you happen to be in the West African nation of Togo, then you could end up at Loam's Akkodisiwa, and you'd be in for the cultural experience of a lifetime. For starters, Loam is the birthplace of voodoo, so I'm pretty sure that you know what you could expect. All types of animal parts for one, to be used as medicines for just about everything. Animals like dogs, leopards, snakes, and even parts of human beings can be purchased here for everything from a headache to insomnia. Screaming Tunnel. Victoria Falls played a part a little earlier in today's show, but we'll end it with a strange occurrence that happens at Niagara Falls to a place that's been said to be extremely haunted. The Screaming Tunnel, located beneath the falls, was created in the early 1900s. There are two different origin stories, each involving a burning little girl that supposedly haunts this place. One states that a local farm not too far from the tunnel caught on fire. The little girl came running out of the house, hair, clothes on fire, into the tunnel in search of help, but then collapsed and passed away right in the middle of it before she could find any. The other, darker version of the story tells the tale of the same little girl being burned alive by her father, a man beset with extreme rage, inside of the tunnel. Whatever story you choose to believe, and there are more out there, the end result is what most will agree on. The girl's spirit still haunts the tunnel, and legend says that if a match is struck from the inside of the tunnel against its wall around midnight, then you can still hear her scream. Those were your 10 most terrifying tourist destinations. Well, at least 10 of the best ones we could find. Feel free to add to this list by commenting down below. You've been watching The Supreme. We'll see you next time.